Catalyst.io.
Hey there, welcome to the newest episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce. I am your co-host, Rachel.
And I'm Delia.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. In this episode, we're going to be actually switching it up a little bit. We're going to be talking about things that are going on right now that you may be seeing on television, social media, with some celebrities and things like that. But specifically, the topic for today is, how do you know how long to stand by him? You know, we all go into marriage without thinking about divorce, but everybody has their limits. And so it's determining what's the limit. How far do you stick by him if like madness is happening?
Right. So are you saying stick by him, whether like, for instance, like the episode today, you know, we want to discuss it to say Kim and Kanye, right? Because it's kind of like been all over headlines.
Yeah.
And him being sort of bipolar, allegedly, and do you stick
Sorta,
by him?
sorta,
Kind of,
sorta.
He kind of showed a little bit of signs back when he took the mic from Taylor Swift, and then, you know, just him having his outburst. And how far does one go to say, can I fix him, or do I stand by him, or do I not? And that doesn't matter if you're in the limelight or not. Sometimes we as women, we stand by our husbands or our significant others to say he's going to get better. And so what does that look like?
Exactly. So we're going to be talking about this because obviously there's a lot of scenarios, right, that can play out in this conversation. I'd like to talk about his decision, because a lot of us have this happen. His decision to seek God and become lean into his faith with Christianity, or, you know, his Sunday service, whatever he's doing with his faith that he's called to do. And then all of a sudden, that's like midway in the marriage. You know what I mean? And like her adjustment to, there's an episode where she's basically getting ready for the Met Gala. And he's saying, I don't feel comfortable with my wife wearing that. And she does say, I understand you're on your journey. That's your journey. This is my journey. And it's understandable. Because he switched it midway. So let's talk about like that, like religion. Because a lot of women, we get close to God somewhere in our marriage. When they met us, we might have been kind of freaky, wild, fun, whatever you want to call it. And then all of a sudden we're like, no, you know, like
we got to pray on that.
We can't be doing that.
I mean, that's a tough one, because I know that she talks about how she took a year to get into the dress, to fit, I mean, I don't know what I'm not saying that she had any surgical procedures. She looked amazing. But I know that his take was, he didn't want to ignite like the evil in other people. If that's his wife, he needs to have her sacredly. I think that's what it was, more or less.
Something like that.
I'm not quoting him verbatim, but it was something along those lines. And I can see that, because sometimes men do get a little bit jealous. And she is a very beautiful woman. She's a public figure. And
she's a public figure because of her figure, because of her body and her looks.
I mean, you know, most girls want to have that whole, you know, snatched look, which is what she's got going on, you know? And, you know, it takes a lot to actually be with someone like that. Like, let's just say Kanye, he's well-to-do. Let's just say he's a public celebrity in his own right also. But, I mean, I don't know.
Clearly, she's reached her limits. And when we talk about our own lives, right, if you're dealing with someone who we've talked in earlier episodes about cheating and staying after he cheats. Sometimes, especially if there's an economic situation happening there, meaning there's a lot of affluence or, you know, wealth there, and now your husband's cheating, and then he asks for forgiveness and you get over it, and then you stay, and great, you did the work and it seems good, but then he keeps doing it, and then you repeat, and then you rinse and repeat. It's like the breakup to make up thing. That's one thing, right? Like we talked about before. But then what about if it's just like, unfortunately or allegedly, there's like a bipolar situation, or, you know, one of the spouses gets really close to into their religion, because when you lean into your faith, and we'll talk about this in other episodes, but it is like a switch. Like you suddenly realize what's important and what's not important. Not everyone's journey is the same. But moments occur. I know for me personally, we've talked about this, when that happened to me, and all of a sudden I went from like living this life where I was out and it's a whole other life because I was in the magazine industry, to like this spiritual thing happening to me, switching, not during my marriage, but like switching. And all of a sudden I realized name brands don't matter. All these things don't matter. And if that happens in the middle of a marriage, you're essentially another person.
Well, because she maybe thinks that all those things matter. And I think maybe, was it because all of a sudden you realize like a lifetime is a short time, you're only here for a short time, and like, does it really matter what you're wearing? I mean, in essence, we're only here for like a blink of an eye and then we're gone.
Exactly. For me personally, my personal experience, I'm not trying to say if you didn't have this, you're not saved or whatever the situation is. But for me, it was like a light bulb went off. It wasn't like in my mind. It was like in my spirit. I went from changing a purse every day, name brand purses, and I'm not even gonna say the names, not cheap, and every day was a new one to match my outfit, my shoes that weren't cheap, all these things, to like, what am I doing? You know, it literally went to that whole, there's like children in Africa that are starving. Like, my soul wouldn't let me do it. Now, I like nice things. I'm not going to say that I don't like nice things, but something switched, and it went from like those things defining who I am to like, I don't even use purses every day anymore. Really weird. You
just have like a wallet, and then you're just like, let's go, keys and wallet, let's go.
Cool.
All right, whatever.
Yeah. But so if he's having that in the male form of like, he picked her because he saw her adult video, and then he saw her with Paris Hilton. I mean, he's been in love with her from day one. He has said this publicly, and he loves her for this doll that she is and for this kind of sexy object, whatever you want to call it. And then all this, symbol, and loves it and encouraged her, dressed her every day, all these different things. And then all of a sudden,
light switch.
You know what? I need you to like cover up. I need you to tone it down.
I wonder, because I know that their children are a lot smaller too, right? So I wonder, I know that sometimes, you know, one thinks, okay, my marriage is at its brittle point, and then all of a sudden you are under this perception that if you get pregnant, even though I know that she had a surrogate, and I know she's got the means to have, you know, nannies and housekeepers, so maybe she doesn't have to deal with the kids on a day-to-day like normal Americans or normal people.
Anybody.
It doesn't have to be an American, but I'm just saying, at what point do you say, is this smart that I have another child? I mean, if I'm already seeing that there's a lot of issues going on, because let me tell you, when you file for divorce, it's not just like something just snapped that day. This is ongoing. It's kind of like a bucket, and there's water, and there's droplets, and drip, and all of a sudden it just overflows, and you're like, there's nothing I can do about this. It's a wet mess.
I mean, it gets with the dripping. It gets to the point where nothing is acceptable. So like you you'll take this class, for example, those watching on YouTube, you can follow us on YouTube, You Deserve Fresh Lettuce. You know, but it's like every drip goes into the glass, and eventually the glass is full of like very serious things. It could have been cheating. It could have been this. It could have been lies. It could have been whatever. And then all of a sudden it could be the smallest thing. Like he chews with his mouth open, like during a movie, and you're like, no, you know?
I can't have that. I'm done. Yeah, but it's because it's been drip after drip.
Yes.
But they have small children. So I know it wasn't like the glass was just down to here, and then all of a sudden she's like, I'm going to get a divorce. And now she's got 4 kids. So there was a moment in time there where she decided that she wanted to go for the 4th kid, have a surrogate carry the 4th kid. Yeah. And this happens, you know, on a day-to-day basis where women are under this perception that if I have another child, this could
fix things.
And guess what? That makes things a little bit more difficult sometimes, right?
Oh my gosh, the baby is not the glue. Like, and I should be careful when I say that, because so often we stay way longer, or we stay forever because of our kids.
Right.
So in a way, they are glue.
In a way.
In a way, they are glue. Are they anchors?
I don't know.
Sometimes they call them anchor babies, right?
Right. So it just kind of holds you down.
Hold it down. So I think the hard thing with that is, again, I can only speak based on my experience, but I know for me personally, I knew all along I'm only going to have kids with one person. And so when I had my son, I was a teenager.
Okay.
And so I was 18. I was pregnant at 17, had him at 18. And then it took me 5 years to have another one, just because I was afraid of the labor.
But were you afraid of the labor? Or, I mean, we've talked about this in past episodes. Did you already see, like, this may not work out?
Oh,
and
yes.
I may be better off being a single mom with one child than to have 2, 3 kids. Is
all
that
ran through. All that ran through because he cheated on me when I was pregnant with the first one.
Okay.
And then somewhere in the middle, I had a miscarriage. And then what ended up happening was I didn't know, actually, I was expecting, had a miscarriage, and it was, you know, like 3-4 months along or something like that. And then that made us very emotional. So even though we were like kind of, like it just, the marriage was tough. Like it was tough. That moment was like, it was a very soft, endearing moment. And it was like, you know, we have been wanting another one. Do we want another one? What do we want to do?
Right.
And then even from that point, it took me time to go, okay, let's try. And then so here's
was it took you time to get pregnant, or was it like,
oh no,
okay, you just decided?
You
and
just,
it was like,
for me, my body was like, you just decide and you go, let's do it.
Today I decide, next month I'm pregnant.
Yes, and I do recognize that I was really young, and you know, so at the end of the day, we made the decision, but it was a decision of like, let's just try like once. And what I mean by that is obviously like unprotected or whatever. So it was like, let's just give it a try once. And if it hits once, cool. And if not, then we're not doing this. I mean, we both understood that. It wasn't just myself, it was him. So we gave it a go. And then here's the thing. Nothing happened. I still had my monthly. There was no indication. I was like, oh, I guess it didn't stick. And I was back to regularly scheduled program, figuring I'm just going to have one son. I'm an only child. I thought I was anyways. At the time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God.
That's a whole other show. 2020 was crazy, let me tell you.
And you have nieces, no nephews, right?
Yeah. No, well, I do, but from my ex-husband's side.
But
not my own. So, you know, at the end of the day, I ended up having, I ended up that I was pregnant.
Wow.
But I didn't know.
Your cycle.
I didn't know I had it the whole time. I didn't know till I was 5 months pregnant.
No, you're one of those.
I didn't know. And it was sitting back. And I wasn't overweight. I was thin. But the thing was, I was doing the news. I was on camera. And people were telling me, your nose looks kind of wide. Like they would watch the footage and go, look at, like.
Did you feel flutters?
No, I didn't feel anything until I did. And then all of a sudden I felt like this kick, like boom.
Boom.
And I was like, what the heck?
There.
And then it was like boom, boom, boom. And then I said, I need to go to the doctor. So this is like, we're veering off here, but went to the doctor, took a blood test, and they came out. Well, first of all, they looked at me and go, Rachel, you are not pregnant. Look at you. Like I was like, small, and I go, I know, right? But I said, but it is getting kind of snug in the middle.
Okay.
Not my legs, not my arms, just like there. So sure enough, she does a blood test and she's like, congratulations, you're pregnant. They send me immediately to an ultrasound because I'm talking about, I felt kicks and I was 5.5 months pregnant. So that pregnancy.
Oh my gosh, so you didn't really get a chance to like, have a baby shower to prepare.
I had no baby shower.
You start to, what is it? What do they call it when you start to nest?
Nesting.
You didn't start to. You really
I didn't gain weight.
Okay, that's awesome.
Actually, after when he came out, I was 18 pounds lighter.
Hello.
So he ate up whatever the extra was. Like so I was super snatched. Yes. He ate his own placenta.
He was hungry.
Oh my God. So I literally, that was it. He came out. I went to my checkup like a week later looking.
Those stories always trip me out.
Yes.
Or when like the girl doesn't know she was ever pregnant and all of a sudden she's getting
in the toilet.
cramps, and she's like, I don't know what's going on. Like something's just moving, like aliens in there. I don't know.
That's a toilet, baby. I didn't have a toilet paper. So here's the thing. You would think that like you'd have to be big for that to happen. I mean, I was small. I was on the news. I was doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, I was taking care of myself because I was on camera all the time. And local news,
that
nothing
I never
big.
knew about you, by the way.
That I did the news?
No, not about the news.
Oh, the baby?
Like, I never knew that. Like, I just thought that you just, you decided to get pregnant. I mean, even though you said, okay, I'm going to do it one time, and then you're like, oh, it didn't hit, but it hit. So it was like, okay, there it is.
One and done, it hit, and let me tell you, my pregnancy was like 4.5 months then. Wow. So it was like I didn't gain weight, I had to work, I was doing whatever, and he came out and I was snatched. The doctor was like, how in the world did you do that? Wow. And I was like, cool. And then I thought to myself, I could have done this like 10 more. I could have like, let's have some more, but you saw. I already knew. And by the way, it was with this baby that was born that I think I mentioned in one of the other episodes that he sat in front of me and admitted he had been having an affair. So I was holding my baby that was 1 week old. So now I'm sitting here going, I went ahead and had another baby with him.
Right.
I'm getting this new information.
Wow.
And now I'm sitting here going, looking at my baby.
And it was kind of fast if you think about it, from the moment that you found out you're pregnant to the moment you held the baby. Because normally you have about 9 to 10 months to prepare, because essentially we're pregnant for 10 months.
Yep.
And you figure you find out of what, 5.5
months. Mm-hmm.
So by the time you're holding him was like literally 5 months later. So it was just so quick. And then reality hits you. And now, because a baby is a beautiful blessing, but it's such a lifelong responsibility, is what I say to anybody. You never stop being a parent, no matter what age you are. Yeah. Till you die and that child dies.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
You're in it.
But you're in it to win it, like forever.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're holding the baby, week old, and what happens?
And he tells me that he was having an affair. And again, keep in mind, I already knew he had been kind of doing this kind of stuff early on and never really talked about it with anybody. He assured me it was like never going to happen again, and here I am. And so his guilt just overwhelmed. He basically started the statement with like how happy he was and how blessed he felt and all these things.
And then it's
then in the same thing, he said, I only have one thing. I only have one little thing that's like clouding the whole thing. And I go, what is it? And he's all, remember that girl, that lady, that da-da-da? And I said, yeah. And he's like, I was with her.
No.
And it wasn't like just once, whatever.
Did you know who the lady was?
I didn't personally know her, but I knew of her.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I knew of her.
So who was his lady? When you say lady,
it was a coworker of his. And so at the end of the day, here I am with my beautiful son, and I went to work. And so I was supposed to be transferring to USC, University of Southern California, and to be a journalist and all these things, and it was over. And so I understood I got to make my money, because I wasn't making money at the time. I was doing the news, but it was more like local news, and it wasn't like money. Yeah. And so I had to like get it together. And then, yeah. So that's how it came to be.
So, I mean, I think, but did you have any idea that he was doing this stuff? Because you have to bear in mind, okay, how long was he with the girl, and what made him want to admit it, right? So what I'm trying to say is, 4 months and a week after you find out basically that you're pregnant, now you're holding a baby, how long was he out messing around with this girl? And it's not until he had this epiphany that he's like, I want to confess to you.
Yeah, I don't know the exact start or the exact end, or I don't know if it ever really ended. I don't have any information. All I know is I know of her. I know somewhat what she looked like, because I'd seen her from a distance, and I knew something was my red flag, basically.
Okay.
He was just acting weird. You got to think, I was barely married a few years, and so it's like you're getting to know each other, and you don't really know each other's moods and all these things. I just knew that like he went from being this super charming guy that I was dating to a completely different type of person that I was married to. And so I had already been dealing with these ups and downs, so it was a little bit ladies, we all have instincts.
Of course.
My instincts were putting 2 and 2 together. I mean, like satellites were kicking on in outer space, and NASA was like in my mind. But I never said much, because again, if we don't have proof, why are we going to start yelling and making stuff up and like, no, then you're going to have to relive it twice, because you're going to have a huge fit, and you start to dig and you start to do all these things for what? You get all dirty and like you're just sitting there looking like a crazy lady.
And then you're still there.
By the way. You're not going anywhere. Let's face it. So I just kept it. I told my grandma, I think something, and she goes,
really?
She goes, you just watch.
But your grandma was old school.
She was very wise.
Well, very wise, but very old school, meaning like she would have stood by her man no matter what, though, right? Kind of.
Because she did tell me, if anything ever happens with you two, he leaves. You do not pack up the kids and leave.
Okay.
You stay in your house.
Okay.
He gets out. And I know that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
So she already saw, I used to confide in her a lot, so she kind of saw some of the stuff, and then here comes the baby. It's supposed to be happy, happy time. But he confesses, and there was a red flag before. The major red flag that I will say, and I'll have to like maybe message him and warn him that I said this on camera.
Yeah.
But warning. And that is that woman was married. She had kids, and her husband caught them and beat up my husband. So
like when you say, because now, you can't just say,
I need tequila. Thank you, Tavi Tequila, for this tequila moment.
Yeah, cheers. Okay, I think I'm going to need more than this. Apparently, I've already had a head start. Please, enlighten me.
If there's any attorneys that would like to sponsor the podcast. This is the moment.
I think I'm gonna have to down this. Do we have more back there? More
Oh, we have a
tequila?
couple bottles of
Dios
coffee.
mío.
Yes.
A ver, dime, por favor.
Oh my god.
Wait.
Oh my gosh.
If
You're driving, you might want to pull over.
You're like, by the way, you beat him up. Like, what?
So
You never talked about this.
I know.
Before.
I'm very
What?
like, I think that once you go through something, I have a hard time retelling these stories, which is hard to believe because I do my podcast, Rachel Unpacked, and this podcast. But but this is what it is. It's about helping you listener, anybody who's listening, to hear these stories.
Because some people might have gone through that and they think they're the only ones. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I've been through the ringer. Actually, there was a story similar to that now that I think about it, okay? But the dad went to go beat up my ex-husband. But that's another story, okay?
Not the dad. Wow. Hasta el papá se me... Oh my gosh.
Okay, so continue. This is not my story. This is your story.
Okay, so basically,
so then, allegedly. No, but
it's for
real.
legal reasons.
This
Yeah,
is for real.
this is for real. Okay. So he worked in a retail establishment, and she worked there as well. And then basically they were doing their thing. Oh, I don't know all the details because you know what?
Holding the towels in the back.
And you know what? Yeah, I don't even. Here's the thing: we get stuck on the details as women.
We do, yeah, we do.
We want to know what, how many times, where, like what was she wearing?
Right,
like
right.
what did you
Was
do?
she wearing a skirt that day?
And by the way, what did you do? Like
Right.
really? Like we don't need none of that.
Yeah,
It was done.
It's TMI for us.
And by the way, it was done. We don't need that tape replaying. So I didn't get into all that, but let me tell you. I don't know how many times. I know it was more than once for sure. I know it was a whole ongoing thing with them.
Wow.
I know she was a lot older than him, like a lot older than him. So I'm a little younger than him. She was like 10 years older than him. It was like a lot older than him. She had two kids, a whole life, a whole family, husband and everything. And they were doing whatever they were doing on their lunch break. I don't know. Like I said, I don't have the details. However, they got caught. And so they got caught by her husband, and he came home all beat up. And so when he came home all beat up, before he got to the house, because see, I'm a very friendly person and I make friends with a lot of people really fast. No. So I made friends with all his coworkers. And so what ended up happening is that he got beat up at work. So everyone witnessed it. And so then the phone starts ringing going, Rachel, are you okay? Rachel, I hope you're doing okay. Oh my God. Like, I'm so sorry.
And your baby's a week old and this is all
No,
happening?
this is my red flag from before the baby was born.
So are you pregnant not knowing you're pregnant, or this is before you decided to get pregnant?
I want to say it's before I decided to get pregnant. Okay. It's before. So then I'm getting the phone calls and the concerns because, again, I made friends with his coworkers and they're thinking, oh my God, like how sad. So not how sad he got beat up, but they knew the situation.
Right.
And so then they're like, are you okay? This and that.
Because we're always the last ones to know.
Always. And he used to, by the way, parade me around. Oh, this is my wife and my little boy and like all this stuff. And okay. Well, so anyways, I get the calls and the warnings and like, oh my God. And Rachel, I know that they're saying that he was they said her name and her husband came and they're telling me the whole story and like, how are you holding up? And so I said, I'm okay, and I played it off.
You did?
Because they didn't know that I didn't know.
They didn't know I didn't know. A lot of...
Meaning they thought he had already been home.
Got it. But you have to understand that you have no idea that he
hasn't come home yet.
You haven't seen his black eye.
Nope.
You don't know that he's cheating on you. And the fact that you're able to be like, oh yeah, no, we're fine. I mean, I would have been like, what? What are you talking about?
I was listening.
I would have been asking like 1,001 questions.
My heart was racing like crazy. I was like feeling nauseous. Like it was all the things that you would imagine you'd feel like just sick. And I just knew though that if I acted like shocked, they would stop telling me. So I wanted to hear.
That's smart. You're like,
so I was like, I said, I'm trying to figure everything out right now. And they're like, and she's not even that pretty and you should see her and she's overweight. And I mean, all the stuff. And so I just let it, and the phone's just like, clicking over because people are trying to call. And I think people were doing that. One, I think some of them were genuinely concerned, like, but I think some people like to see the wreckage. Yeah. And I think some people want to be.
It's like the bad accident that you drive by and you're like, don't look. And you're like,
And
stopping, looking.
I also think some people want to clear themselves to be like, oh, I called you right away because maybe they did know. And it's like, here it comes. And because apparently he used to go with her and like take her to some of the company stuff.
But he never did like company traveling, right? Where
Not like that. Not that girl. I know, right?
Oh,
but,
no.
but hold on.
Ay, Dios mío. I don't have enough tequila for all this. So go ahead.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. So go ahead. I'm listening. I'm all ears. I'm telling you.
So, back to Kim and Kanye. No, just kidding.
But
So
I'm sure
it was rough.
But I'm sure she's going through it.
You know
too,
what I mean?
With the whole okay, I don't. We're gonna go back to you. However,
Yeah.
you know, like even with Kanye allegedly being with Jeffree Stars,
I know.
the whole like
and not just him. There was some girl they used to hang out with that's a singer too. That there were rumors of them too.
Right.
There's been a lot.
And so sometimes they say where there's smoke, there's fire.
There's fire, for
and
sure.
why are people saying these things? And sometimes you're like, there's no way he would never do that until it's confirmed.
Yes.
And even, and here's a bad thing. If he wasn't, he's still like now someone kind of dirtied his name. And
Yeah.
that's what happens too. And now, even if he didn't do anything, now the wife's still a little concerned and may say like, wait a minute, how did this happen?
Yeah.
So going back to you though.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. And that became my red flag. So, and he came home, of course, and it was, no, it was a huge shelf and boxes following me. I said, listen, I already freaking out. But he denied it up and down, up and down.
Okay, so now he's claiming he's in the back room. But he didn't tell you what he was doing in the back room.
No, yeah. So just so you guys know, I actually did pack up my oldest boy, because I wasn't pregnant yet.
Yeah.
And I left. And so I went to my mom's and I was like, I'm leaving. I don't know how I'm doing it. I don't know how I'm going to do any of this, but I'm leaving. And so I did leave. And then, it was one of those things where my mom's like, well, what are you going to do? And da-da-da.
Yeah.
I didn't have a plan. I don't know. And I knew then women are it's kind of crazy to leave without a plan. Like I've always had little signs.
Right.
And then now I'm just leaving and I have no plan. And I have this my young son. And so it felt very irresponsible of me to just do that. And like to just do that to my mom and to just do that to like my son, all because now the truth is coming out about someone that I always knew had that in him. And so I went back. So he came and got me and I just went back and you know what? We ended up having my son, my youngest son. And then from there, he, at that moment, admitted, he said, that whole thing that I told you, it was boxes. And I mean, come on, I already knew.
But you already knew,
yeah.
everyone called
And
you.
he then says, this is what it is and blah, blah, blah. But, it ended and after that, and just so you know, but it's been just us this whole time. So he was just trying to he was like having a beautiful moment.
So here's what trips me out though, right? Because I've obviously seen your like modeling pictures and and you're obviously still a very beautiful girl. And then, but you were at your like prime and you were amongst and in front of like major execs that you could have
very
just been like,
wealthy men.
I'm out. I don't even care. And that could have been your strategic plan to be like, okay, well, I'm going to take my son. I'm going to go ahead and run off.
Yeah.
And I have plan B. I mean, a lot of women do that. I know that you're not set up that way or you're not, your mindset isn't that way. But to not have taken that opportunity, you still fought for your marriage, your family, for everything else.
I did. And
that's what happens. Like, you have another child. You're like, okay, this is going to maybe make things better. And then you realize it never makes things better to have another child.
I mean, I was in it probably another 10 years or something like that. I forget how many years, 12 years. And after that whole, my youngest son being born and the revelation, and let me tell you, it was continuous smoke signals, in all different scenarios, completely different from one another, where it got to the point where, and at the same time, simultaneously, seeing opportunities come forward and seeing other men step forward and trying to make their move, but in a serious way. Some of them are just fishing, but some were very, 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 very serious. And because I worked with these people and it was so every day that I came home to him, I would pray that it would be a good day. And oftentimes it just was. And I'll share one thing with you. with all of you is I remember getting to the point where I had met someone that really made me think if I wasn't married, I would for sure go with that person. And he was married, and I knew he felt the same.
Wow.
We had a lot of respect towards each other, and I was actually pretty open about this in my life with regards to him, because I had never actually felt that with anyone.
Right.
And I thought, oh my God, there's something here. So obviously we didn't pursue it, but it stuck in my mind, and it made me think, you know what? If some outside person can make me feel this way now, it's probably time I probably leave. Like, I thought it's probably time I leave. Like,
that's smart, because I think a lot of the time, if you think there's a possibility, like I've always thought, if I think that I want to cheat, then I'm not going to. I'm not set up that way. But
yeah,
and at that point, I want to do it. Therefore, there's probably something that's missing. So maybe I either have to fix it or I have to go.
exactly. And so that's just, I'm a pretty fair person.
Right.
And so I got to that point, and then what ended up happening was I was driving home from actually being in this person's office, because we were doing business together, and I'm praying on it, but I wasn't that like religious back then.
Yeah.
But I said a little prayer, and I was like, just show me if this is the right thing to do, because I'm still young. I'm surrounded by quote unquote potential, like serious potential. And I want to be happy, and I want to do what's right for my boys too. So what happens, I do this, I'm feeling pretty confident, like tonight's the night to have the talk. And I walk in, and my sons were making cookies or cupcakes for me, and they were waiting because I'd worked late, and there's my husband with him, and they're like covered in flour or whatever. And they're like, Mommy, look at what we made for you. And they had never done something like that before, and I just started crying, and I think they thought I was crying
because you were happy.
Because I was so happy, but I was crying because I said I cannot ever go out like that. I cannot go out like this. Like, I just can't go out like for another man, or because I'm just over it. Like, I knew something major would have to happen again for me to leave, and I just decided if he cheats on me again, I'm out. I don't care if I'm 88 years old, I'm out. And that's it. And then I just stayed with him until he did it again, unfortunately. But
pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember, because I have 2 daughters, and that was another thing for me, you know, and I respect if you have, you know, different kids from different dads, that's okay. But that was a big deal for me also.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to make sure that, you know, my kids were from the same dad. I didn't have like 5 kids, 4 dads. I mean, and if that's the way that you roll, then that's okay.
How you roll, that's how you roll.
Then that's how you sushi roll, then that's how you sushi roll. I'm okay with that. However, for me, that was always my concern. I was like very not worried. I just wanted to make sure that my kids were from the same father. And, you know, when I got pregnant with my second daughter, that was, I wouldn't want to call it an accident, right? Because when you're an adult, you know better.
Yeah.
But I was not expecting to be pregnant with her, and things were already bad. And honestly, when you have a child and you think things are going to get better, I didn't have her because I thought things were going to get better. On the contrary, I was getting ready to go, and it was like the famous getting ready to go, and all of a sudden it's like, excuse me, ma'am, you're pregnant. And you're like, what?
Well, they say, you know, we make our plans and God laughs, you know, so
God was laughing at me. He's like, not today, Satan, not today, Satan. So I was blessed with my beautiful little girl. But a lot of the times, you know, like for instance, I will go back to Kim and Kanye. Let's just say I know that there had been issues for a very long time, and they're just one of many celebrities and one of many people and human beings that are living in this lifetime where you think, okay, well, if I have a child, maybe it'll get better, or, you know, this is going to be the glue. And believe me, if you're already out the door, a child is not going to really make that glue be stickier. It's going to make it worse. And you may get another 5 years or 10
But you'll
years.
get those extra years because of you, because of your own heart.
Right.
It's not because of him. It doesn't change him necessarily.
Right.
It's because of you. Remember, if he's cheating on you, he cheated on you as a mom. Like, you know what I mean? And that's why I always say, people go, Rachel, do you think that once a cheater, always a cheater? And I say,
we talked about this, and we gave a percentage, and I was like, well, I think maybe 85%, and only because I think I'm an optimist, and I'm not saying that you're not an optimist, but you're saying once a cheater once he cheats on you, it's over. Always going to cheat on you.
It's over. It's over.
But you know what? I kind of agree with you, Rachel. But I almost want to like leave that percentage a little open just for like
Point
a little
005.
optimism.
You got
like,
it.
But yeah, once he has cheated, he's just like, she'll stay. She's
And
not
it's-
going anywhere. She's not gonna go anywhere.
They've already
Where's she gonna go?
they've already seen the parachute. They've already seen the flare gun.
Yeah.
They've already seen the warning shots, and they've already assessed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's not gonna go anywhere.
That's all she's got. Like, you know.
What is she gonna do? Where is she gonna go? How is she gonna make her money?
Yeah.
I mean, there are girls that are the providers, but that's very rare because usually, like that girl, that lady from Shark Tank, Barbara.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
What's her last name? Barbara.
I can't think of it right now.
Anyway, but she had her kids older.
Cochran.
Yeah, she was talking about how she was like a dude and she was very
Oh, yeah.
successful and, you know, she'd go out there, make the deals, wouldn't really care, work, 70 hours a week. And she said verbatim almost that the kids basically were kind of anchors and she could have made more money. But when she decided to be a mom, there's that level of like, we are the nurturing parent that needs to kind of stay behind a little bit and let the man shine. And so she talks about how she had to kind of step back. And she says being a parent is really difficult. And that's why on the market or, when it comes to jobs and careers, the man always makes more money because guess what? He's not the one that's going to carry a baby.
Yeah.
He's not the one that's having a child. And if he never has kids and he doesn't want kids, that's okay.
They take the least amount of time off. They put in the most hours.
Exactly.
Like, it just is,
And, and that there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just what happens.
Yeah. I think there's a sacrifice to be made no matter what end of the spectrum you're on, because I know women that have never been married, never had kids, put their careers first, because they were raised by a generation of parent that was like, go do what I wasn't able to do.
Right.
Go get your education,
Right.
go build your career, because again, I wish this is like the old school generation saying, I wish I could have done that for me. So they want their daughters to do that. Then they go and do that, and then next thing you know, they're in their 40s, and now their career's doing good, but now they're looking back going, wait a minute,
Now
I
I'm
wanted
a mom.
kids, and I wanted a husband, and so I do say, that it's always worth staying for your family.
I agree.
And so for me, I do not regret those extra years that I stayed. You know why also? Because for me, I felt like my sons didn't have to share their father with the whole other family. And because my sons were older, it was like they were raised with their mom and dad in the house, for better or worse, right? They had a lot of tough memories as well. But at the same time,
Do you feel like you guys were very open? Were you like the typical Mexicans? Because I know you're Latina, Mexicana, and usually, they say like white parents, okay, respectfully. They'll say, okay, a little Susie, you have to go into the bedroom. We're gonna go and then they start discussing it to where they're like, come here, Juan, tell me your mom didn't tell you this. And they're like, literally call out the kid. And the kid has to be like, yeah, mom, you did say this. And they get the kid in the middle versus, were you like, I'm not saying that you were
that
like
was
a typical
more
Latina,
how,
but
so
I'm just saying, were you?
That was how I was raised. I
Okay.
was raised in the middle.
Okay.
But, so because I was raised in the middle, I did my
Opted
best not
out.
to put my kids in the middle, but they were in the middle in that I try to always create peace
Okay.
in my home. And then he just did whatever he was going to do. Like if he was in a mood, everybody was going to freaking feel it. Like, and so they just saw that. So it
And
was.
you would try to minimize it then.
I
You would
always
try to like
did my best.
diffuse and minimize. Like
Yeah.
he's having a day, I'm gonna let him have his
Yes.
day.
So
Okay.
it was definitely one of those where my kids were like, it's Beauty and the Beast hour,
Ah.
and they just got used to that. And so sometimes they would see me cry. I wanted them to understand though that things hurt. So I
Right.
didn't always play tough. I didn't want them to grow up thinking a man can treat a woman like this. And then she's just like, hi, you want some cake? Like,
Do you want
no,
breakfast?
they
I'm hungry.
understood
Can I
that
make you dinner, yeah.
dad was mean, mom was hurt.
Aw.
But they also saw that I didn't have resentments. Like 10 minutes later, I'm back like, okay, guys, so we're going to go to the movies. What are we going to do? I didn't hold grudges and all that. So that, I don't know what that's going to look like when, like when Adrian gets married, my youngest son gets married.
Yeah.
I don't really know how that's going to play out.
Yeah.
If he marries a woman who's like, no, 3 days later, I'm mad at you, silent treatment because I didn't do any of that. So that I don't know. But for me personally,
But you know what? Everyone is a reflection of what they saw in their household.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like for instance, me, I saw that my mom put up with my dad, and she put up with it all. And I just remember thinking, I am not going to put up
yeah.
with it. And I did for a long time.
Yeah.
But I always would say I'd rather come from a broken home than to live in one.
Yeah.
And that's my mom kind of instilled that, where we had to live in the broken home, to where I now changed it. So it's like this cycle too, where it's
Yeah.
like you live in a broken home, you're not from it, you're from it, you're not from it. And a lot of the time when you're about to meet someone, everyone wants to know, are your parents still together? That's kind of like one of the main questions too, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, are your parents still married? Are they divorced? Oh, my.
In the dating scene, it is, because it'll speak volumes to what you view marriage as.
Right. And you know, I mean, fortunately my parents have still been married. And so because I come from a broken home, it's not like broken home, but my kids will have to explain the broken home.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it'll work out. And that's okay. I mean, I'd rather do that than to have them be there. So anyway, I mean, I think that wraps up today.
It does, yeah. I mean, this has been a great episode. In your own situations, you have to assess, you know, what's the right time for you and how much you're willing to put up with. And the kids do matter. Like Delia says all the time, it is better to come from a broken home than to live in one. But, you know, there's all these things to consider. Like I said earlier, for me, it was my great takeaway for waiting so long was that my boys didn't have to share their dad with the whole other wife and kids and family. And there's a huge value to that, because all of their childhood, they could look back and see that. They also didn't have me bringing in a stepdad in. If you're doing that situation, that's fine. There's a lot of wonderful, wonderful step parents. So this isn't a bash on them. It was my own personal choice. And then I just feel really great about my decisions. And that's what it boils down to. Feeling great about your decisions and what's best for you and your children.
I agree. And at the end of the day, you know, also, I think if you already see things aren't working out, and you think, okay, well, maybe if I have a child, this is gonna make it stickier. Believe me, it's only gonna make it worse. And I think because, you know, okay, so I'm gonna go on a little bit of a tangent. When you're pregnant and the person's with you, if you were supposed to kind of bond more, now you're pregnant, so the bonding kind of isn't as good, because now, you know, the guy's like, I'm gonna hit the baby, you know, and they're having sex.
I'm gonna get the baby a black eye. The baby's gonna have two black eyes.
Don't even touch a baby, okay? Calm down. But anyway, that's my tangent for the day, which is horrible. But believe me, you know, having another baby is not gonna make it better. But you have to know what that looks like in your lifetime, and if you want to go that route, and know that, okay, well, maybe it's best that I don't have kids with him, or if I have a child, then I just walk away with a child and not have 2-3 kids. It's tough. I mean, you know, these are decisions that you have to make regardless, and just kind of go forward.
Yep,
so.
Absolutely. So it's up to you. If you want to just have 3 kids with a guy that you know isn't the best because you want them to have the same dad, just make sure that you're putting a plan in place, that exit plan. You can listen to an earlier episode about that. You want to make sure, if you're going to be jumping off the train, now you're jumping off with 3 babies and whatever you got. So it's all about being prepared. So if you already know, okay, like it might not work out long haul, all along the way, enjoy the moments, enjoy those beautiful moments, those memories your kids are making with you and your spouse, and little by little be preparing. That's all I can say about that.
Me too. So I agree. So anyway, have a beautiful day, whatever you do.
Yep. And thank you so much for listening. At the end of this episode, we have a mantra that you can read. So you'll hear a little soft music and you can screenshot it. And it's a nice little thing to say to yourself to just kind of reassure yourself and re-energize yourself and help you remind yourself that you deserve fresh lettuce. All right.
So cheers.
Cheers.